maybe change is a little harder to accept, I guess, because I see the change. Oh, there's another field going to houses. The tractor dealership closed. You know, it's just things change, and it's I think it's a struggle for me to figure out how to adapt to this culture change, and you know, and then find all the positive in it, I guess, maybe, because it's going to change. It's not going to be the way it was, as much as I wish it was. I've seen a lot of, in the last 2 or 3 years, have been, you know, definitely seen a lot of change to a lot of, Randolph has seen a lot of the farm consolidation happen in the last 2 or 3 years. We've had 25 dairy farms 5 years ago, and I think we're down to 11 or something like that. And that's a lot of my close friends have closed up shop, and you know, we got a little bigger, so we picked up a little ground. A couple other guys have gotten bigger, and they've kind of absorbed a lot of that land. And you know, they definitely lose something there. You know, when it's no longer its own, all these little own functioning entities, they're now part of a bigger farm.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And it's actually the perfect segue into what I wanted to ask next. And maybe I'll just leave it with you, and we'll come back down, because I think I'd love to have everyone speak on this. And that is really, what are you most afraid of losing as our farm economy and our landscape inevitably changes? But I'd also like to hear, so I'd like to hear you talk about that for a second. And I'd also like to hear you talk about, what do you think we possibly stand to gain by perhaps being a little more nimble and creative in our thinking as we sort of work with this shifting dynamic?
I guess I kind of like, you know, I think we could stand to gain some of that community culture back with different types of, you know, like you're talking to Taylor with her vegetable farm, and you know, if you have a small scale farm, you get a lot more in a town, you know, and dairy will never be like that again. It's just the way it's done now. I mean, not on a commercial scale. You're never going to see a town with 50 commercial dairy farms, small ones anymore. It's just not the way the business model works anymore. But I think if we can, it certainly wouldn't break my heart to see more agriculture-minded people come out of maybe readjusting our agriculture models in the state. Just even if they don't do it like me, at least they'd have an understanding of what I'm trying to do, and I think that would just certainly, it would make doing what I do easier. I think it would be better for the community as a whole. Like, if there was just more of us doing it, I guess.
Paul?
Well, right now, 2%, less than 2% of the United States population is in agriculture. So you're talking about the other 99%. We need to be able to build trust between those who are not in agriculture and those who are in agriculture. Some things that occur on farms, you really don't want to have the public see. I use the analogy, if you had a camera in your house when your children were growing up, there might have been some situations that occurred that you wouldn't want others to see. I'm not saying some of the things that go on dairy farms that are done correctly look as good as they should, but I think we have to build that trust that animals, the land, and the planet are being treated as well as the individual, because we all want to, I hate the word stewards of the land, but that's what we are. The new buzzword is not sustainability, but net zero, to get all farms so they're at net zero, carbon sequestration, all the other things that go into that. And I think that's something to educate the public what agriculture does. The most sustainable way to have clean water is to have a well-managed farm, regardless of what they are producing, you know, vegetables or whatever else.
I think building off of that is that there's this wealth of knowledge in Vermont from an older generation that doesn't exist in this concentration anywhere else in the country. And we're losing it. And there's a wave of younger people who grew up on farms or who didn't. And there's a lot of excitement right now in a generation. And I think there's an opportunity there to capture that excitement and capitalize on it and connect people with this knowledge to people who, like me, who have no idea what we're doing, and hold on to that. And then I think, but it's also scary because the cohort that I started with just in 7 years ago, I'm the only, there's 2 of us still in business. There's people start, they get to maybe year 3 or 4, and then they're out because they're not making enough money. They're stressed. People are talking about the rate of suicide amongst farmers right now. So it's how do we convince young people to keep doing it? That's everything.
Yeah, I think one of the things in thinking about like what are we afraid of losing or what are we at risk of losing, I think Paul touched a little bit on the lack of labor, and I think in the culture piece, the idea of people growing up with a job or as 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, having that connection to work and what work means and what physical work means. I think that's something that we've already lost a lot of in general culture. I think trying to find labor is harder and harder, and it's been something that's been really eye-opening for me. My husband grew up in Mexico, in rural Mexico, and he grew up even more with a culture of physical labor than I did, or than many of the people I grew up with did, and seeing that for him, that's still so much a part of the broader culture. And I think here, it's become something that's just a piece of the culture for people who have been lucky enough to grow up on farms. So I think that piece of what physical labor means, and I think that's something that's also really hard for people coming into farming who haven't had, who didn't grow up on a farm. It's hard to learn how to do, both how to do certain types of work and, what to see. There's so much that you just kind of take in through, osmosis. So I think that's a big barrier to people coming in as first-generation farmers, that can find a way to help have that as part of the culture. And I think there is a lot of promising work. I think I'm part of a group looking at how to strengthen the 4 towns of Sharon, Stratford, Bethel, and Tunbridge, and a lot of it's focused on culture and economic development and agriculture, and looking at how can we make our communities support agriculture more, how can we build stronger networks of farmers and between farmers and the general public. So I think there is a lot of hope in that area. It's just a matter of figuring out how to find it.
Thank you. Chuda?
A lot of things already they're coming from our panel, but I think the most important thing is educated the people, and all the people they use every day a lot of different food, and they need to teach their the younger generation what is called where the food come from, and sometimes from the school and the colleges, they need to visit the farm and what they are doing there, the physical work. People right now, I can say they didn't want to do the physical the work because of the well advanced the equipment and all. They need to the run that kind of equipment. Their hope they didn't have the enough money. It's always the farmer is the top job they know, but self-confident, and then we didn't dream like the most like the big things. We could work like the stately. Everyone wants to do the run like a very good like the expensive equipment on the farm, like doing the bedding, like the other purposes. It's a lot of work, but the people or the younger generation, they need to know like what kind of job in the, what is these farmers doing there, and also like the respect for the people. The farmer, you work like the mostly like more than 15 hours every day, but this is his job. But you know, if we get a respect from the other people, the people motivate, and then, oh, we should do this one. This is like the same self-mind, like the business, you know, and his hope is going like the up. The most important thing is to like the growing the hope and the confidence for the people. I think if we do this kind of like the educated, mostly like the younger generation. Now, after my retire me from a farm, my children, they can able to like the handle my business, so that they can teach more people. I am so respectful from him. He's doing like the 7th generation right now. Hearing this one, this kind, you know. So it's important is educated, the number one, I think, and then self-confident, respect from the people. That's some of the thing, I guess.